Hi everyone, I'm Brian, co-founder of Rindle, and this is a high-level basics overview of Rindle. All right, so the screen we're looking at right here is called the board screen. A board can be a project, it could be a workflow, it could be a checklist. So basically think of it like an organizational unit, right? So things that you need to organize, tasks, etc., can live inside a board. Those can take form in a project, a workflow, or even simple office checklists. All right, so on the left-hand side, you see our navigation is set up pretty simply. We have a main navigation on the left. So you see the board section we're in right now. We have a browse section where you can search for tasks. We have reports and some quick links down here. We have a global search on top here, which I'll show you in a bit. And then we have our main icon here, our user account and notifications up here in the top right. And then inside the middle here is our board section. So you'll see a number of boards here. We're going to go ahead and hop inside the deep sea dive planning board. It's generic. It's just a nice, fun kind of topic to show a demo on. All right, so I just opened that board. What we're looking at here is called the column view. So we have a couple different views inside Rindle. The column view basically runs left to right. It's a Kanban style approach, right? So you can move tasks from left to right inside of lists. So these right here, backlog, in progress, blocked, and done, are lists on the board. And the things inside of the list are called tasks. So in the column view, tasks can basically move left to right from a status standpoint. It could be groupings of tasks, whatever it might be. But this approach is very visual. We recommend this to most of our customers. You can tell a lot about the project or the workflow or whatever's going on inside this board by seeing a picture like this, either broken up by stage or by type or whatever it might be. Our approach in general is visual. So you can see the task face here. You can see the tags. You can even click on the tags and expand them. You can see who's assigned, due dates, if there are subtasks or not, comments, etc. You can even put images on the task face here. So combine all that into a layout like this, you can really understand the work that's in progress right now a lot easier. We also have other views, a list view. If you're looking for something more traditional or a simple checklist or something like that, this could be a great view for your approach. So it goes kind of top down vertical approach. You can just check off tasks as they're done. You could open up tasks the same way from that other board. So inside here, we also have our calendar view. So anything with a start and or due date will show up on the calendar view. You can open tasks from here as well. So it does give you a sense of time. And then to further that, we also have a Gantt view. So this brings in scheduling over time. So if you're planning projects or need to show a customer or some stakeholder a plan for a project or a workflow, this is a great approach for that. So this is very visual over time. You can see we have dependencies and due dates and all these good things. So we'll touch on this a little bit more. So let's go back to the column view. So let's open up a task and take a look at inside the task itself. So I'm going to go ahead and open this one. So from the top down here, you can see we have task breadcrumbs. So you can always see where this task is. We do have subtasks, which we'll go over in a second. So as you go deeper in the nesting, you'll be able to see exactly where the task is. Below that, we do have indicators here, like this task has a dependency, so we show that. It also will show mirrors and things like that, which again, we'll talk about that in a second as well. You can have assignees on the task here. One or more people can be assigned to a task. Some systems limit you to one. We don't. We believe that sometimes two people actually do work on the same task or more. So you can do that just by simply clicking this button and assigning somebody to the task. We do have a harvest integration as well, so you can track time with that. It can be turned on in your settings. So now let's go down to the bottom of the task here, get a little lower here. So I talked about this cover image. That is from the attachment on the task, so we'll get down there in a minute, but you can turn this on basically to show this on the top and on the task face. We do have tagging in our system. So these tags are custom to you, so you can create whatever tags you want, any color combination you want. You can add as many tags as you want to the task. These tags are also global to Rindle, so they're not on a per board basis. So you can create a set of tags, for example, like priority, high, mid, low, right? And have those be used across all boards and everybody's using the same set of tags. This is a task name here. You can click in here and edit that name simply. You can mark the task complete by checking this checkbox here. We do have start dates along with due dates and times. So it also will show you what list it's in. So this is in progress. And we also do track duration as well. So if it has a start date, this is typically comes into play with Gantt chart. So if you have a start date on here, it will also show you a duration. So you can set your duration for 3 days, as an example, and then also have a separate due date. We do have descriptions on the tasks, so you can put a description on a task to describe what's going on with that task or further information. It is a rich text editor, so you can go ahead and add, paragraph tags, headers, bullets, numbered lists, images, etc., as you would expect. You can also highlight text in here, and you'll get a bold, italicized, and a link option. This gray area down here are custom fields. So these, again, are custom to your account, so you can create these yourselves. You can have a combination of drop-down menu options, text field, number field, date field, radio buttons, and checkboxes. So very custom. If we're not collecting a piece of data in our general set of things that I'm showing you here in the task, you can create a custom field to collect it. Our automation platform also leverages custom fields, which can be very powerful. So these, again, can be collected. You can also show this information on the task face. So if we look at the task I just opened over here in the task face, you'll see that some of those fields that have data are actually showing on the task face as well. So that's a nice touch as well. You can also filter the board by that. Watchers, basically, if you want to keep a pulse on the task, maybe you're not assigned to it, but you're managing it, or you just want to know what's going on with it, you can watch the task. So you can have one or more watchers on the task. Our subtasks are unique, so they are full-fledged tasks. So if I go ahead and click on this task right here, it's going to show me that it's a subtask, which is great. But you'll see I have all the same options as I do as that parent task that we were just looking at. So a task is a task in our system. It just happens to be nested under a parent. And that gives us a couple advantages. This subtask can have its own start date and due date if we wanted to, its own description, its own custom fields, its own subtasks even. We don't recommend you going deeper than 3 levels, but we do let you go unlimited levels, really, just because of the fact that we can also drag and drop subtasks and tasks onto each other, right? So I can take this final storage containers here and say, hey, you know what? This turned into a bigger task. It's no longer a subtask of this item. So I'm going to go ahead and pull it out onto the board and drop it there. Everything about it follows it because it is a task. So if it has assignments and attachments and comments, all those things will follow it, no problem. And then I can just attach it. And same thing if I bring something in, say, hey, you know what? This is really part of this other task. So I'm just going to drop it in here and make it a subtask, right? So that's, our system works very easily with that, moving things on and off, and tasks are pretty flexible in that way. To add a new subtask, you just click the plus sign here. And then right below that section, we have commenting. So you can basically add comments as you would expect. I need help on this. And you can also mention people, right? So you can hit the @ sign and mention people directly. They'll send a notification, etc. So I can say, Tom, can you help me on this, and add a comment. I can add local file attachments here. We also integrate with Google Drive, Dropbox, and Box. So if you use those platforms, you can attach files there as well. So in our menu here for the task settings, we have a couple options worth mentioning. So you can move tasks, you can copy them, of course. We do have mirroring. So this is very unique to Rindle. Mirroring basically allows a task to live in 1 or more boards at the same time. So they can actually move through different workflows on different boards, but it's the same task and they're staying completely in sync. So there's lots of use cases for that. We actually have separate video and separate documentation on mirrors. So you can search our help center for mirror, and you'll get a bunch of results, and you can look at more use cases for that. But it helps with delegating work to teams. If you want to separate your departments out and have separate workflows for your departments outside of projects, you can do things like that. You can escalate issues, right? So if there's blocked tasks on boards and there's 30 boards, how do you kind of group all the blocked issues together? Well, you can mirror them all up into one board, right? So lots of use cases for that. Definitely worth checking out, but it's a very simple interface here. You can basically select what board you want to mirror it to, on what list, top or bottom, and mirror it, and then it's going to show in both places. So if I go ahead and mirror this to the equipment checklist board, I can go ahead and mirror that, and it will actually show me that it's mirrored in 2 different places. On this board, so it's still here, and it's also on the equipment checklist board. All right, and we also have repeating tasks, so you can repeat tasks within boards. We have basically regular statements here. Like you could say every weekday, every Friday, every Thursday. We have some help text here as well. These are examples. Basically, you can click on them. So I can say every weekday, let me give that a shot. Or maybe I want to check out every 6 months, but I really just need 5 months. So I can just click on that text, back it out, and just put in 5 months, right? And it'll pick it up. If you put something in that's not correct, like that, right? Invalid rule. So it will tell you. So you can play around with what's possible. We have some help documentation on it as well, but these probably will get you a long way as far as the examples. You can then set a time for when you want the task to create. So I can set 9 a.m. as an example. You can then set dynamic start and due dates, right? So if I wanted to start the day the task is created, I can put a 0 in there. And then if I wanted to have a due date of 3 days later, I can put a 3 in there. I can then also set it to repeat forever or a certain count. So I only need it 5 times, and then it will no longer repeat after that. And then you tell the system, where do you want it to go, right? What board, what list, top or bottom again, and then it will appear in that place. You also have the option to copy comments attachments if that's something you need. By default, it does not copy them. So basically, this task, once you set up the task the way you want it, you can have a description in it, it can have whatever you want in it, and then you can set it to repeat, and it will basically repeat that task on whatever interval you set. All right, so I don't think there's any other options in here. You can make things milestones as part of the Gantt chart, which we'll talk about in a second, and we can archive and delete the task. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and close this task out. Yes, close it. We also have some options here. We have activities list here, so you can see what's happened on a board. So if you want to get caught up really quick, this is a great way to kind of see what's happened. It tracks all the activity. We do also have filters on the board. So you can filter by task name. You can filter by custom field, like I mentioned. So if there's a custom field showing a task face here, so for example, I could search for 5, and it'll pull anything with 5 in it for the custom field as well, which is nice. I can clear that out. I could filter by incomplete or complete, by tags, by dates, and who's assigned to, right? So I want to see everything that I'm assigned to, or actually let's use Tom. So everything filters out. You just see things that Tom are assigned to. We can also move tasks in this filter view. So I can go ahead and move this to in progress, and it will still work, right? So I can still work in a filtered view. So if you have your assignments, or looking at somebody else's assignments, you could still work in that view without having to clear the filter. You can combine filters as well. So I can say, show me everything that Tom's assigned to that's day of dive, right? So I can go ahead basically and filter out the day of dive tag as well, and there you go. So you can combine filters, pretty powerful. All right, so I'm going to clear those out. Great. We have a collapse view as well. So this is helpful if you have a lot of tasks on a board. You can collapse them down. Again, you can drag and drop in this view as well. Just kind of makes it a little more compact, takes away some of the things you might not need, and makes it a little, get a little more tasks for the height of the screen. All right, so if we look at the left side of the board here, we've been living in the tasks part of this board the entire time we've been talking. So this is the part of the board where we see the tasks, and whatever views we want to see them, we can manage the tasks, open the tasks, etc. We also have discussions. So discussions are basically high-level discussions that happen at a board level. So we have commenting in tasks, right? You can have a conversation about a task. Discussions are really happening at the board level. So if you have anything to talk about, like requirements or meeting notes or things like that, they can happen in a discussion. So you can basically have a topic. You can have the same type of editor we have in a task. You can put bullets and format text, etc. Make attachments, have watchers who want to stay, have a pulse on the conversation, and then it has commenting built right in here as well. So these are separate functionality at the board level that you can use on top of commenting. Automations. So automation is a huge part of our platform. These are automations that basically happen at the board level. So these are rules that sit on the board. You can see I have a couple automations on here. When I mark a task complete, move it to done. When I move it to done, mark it complete. When I remove it from done, mark it incomplete, right? These are very simple rules. So if we take a look at this first rule, when I mark a task complete, move it to done. So basically what this rule contains is a trigger and an action, right? So the trigger is basically, hey, what's going to happen? What event will happen that's going to trigger the rule? And then what action are we going to take, right, on the right? So I can basically choose from a list of options here. We have lots of things that you can choose from. Add assignee, added tag, added watchers, etc. So I have selected in this one, particularly when a task gets marked complete, right? And then I want to take an action of, we have lots of actions here, add assignee, you can add a comment, you can create tasks, you can create subtasks with automations, you can send notifications, right? So there are lots of options here to discover as well. And for this one, I have basically, we're going to move the task when it's marked complete, and we're going to move it on this board. We're going to move it to the done list in the top position, and we're going to perform that action on itself, right? So we can enable that rule and put in action. So basically what this does is, when I mark a task complete, so let me take this task that we were just in here. If I'm in here and mark this task complete, it will move to the done column, right? There it is. So it's a simple example of an automation. These obviously can be enhanced quite a bit, can become more complicated. So you can have multiple triggers separated by or statements. You can have multiple actions separated by and statements. You can also have conditions on automation. So the trigger itself can have a condition, and we can add a set of conditions here, and we can say, well, only execute this rule if the title of the task is equal to exactly this text, right? Or we can say the assignee, right, includes or doesn't include, includes any, does not include, has none, has any, right? Lots of different operators here. And you can say, you know, includes Brian Faust, right? And then we'll basically only execute it if I'm assigned to it, right? So lots of flexibility here in Power. You can add multiple conditions in a set that are separated by the and statement, and you can have an or statement separating multiple sets. So I can say this and this has to happen, or this, to execute this rule. So again, lots of power and flexibility. We also help you and assist you with setting up automations if you come on board with Rindle. So don't get overwhelmed by them. We can definitely figure out your workflow and help you with the best automations for what you need to accomplish. All right, so those are automations. You do have a separate view of comments as well. So if you want to get, again, caught up on the board, you want to see the latest comments, you can jump right to the task the comment was made on. And then files, same thing. So you can see the latest files that were added. You can filter out by different parameters. We also have an archives view. So archive tasks live here. You can open them here and view them if you'd like. You can also restore them or delete them permanently. Okay, this is the board members area. So this is where you'll see current board members that are on the board today. So these are all the members on this board right here. I then have the option to add members as well. So I can add new members here if I want to. And when I add a user, by default, they have a permission level of board member. We do have different permissions available. So board member is basically your common permission level. So they can create and edit and move tasks, etc. Can delete tasks that they create. A board administrator can do, create, edit, and move everybody's tasks, and they can manage the board settings themselves. We also include a restricted view, which basically is similar to read-only, but they can create tasks and edit the ones that they create, and then a read-only view, which is as you would expect. So you can have different permission levels at the board level. If you don't have a member in here yet, you can also invite users here in the top right corner, invite new people to Rindle if you'd like as well. All right, and then we have settings for the board. So here's where you can set the default view. So we have, like we set up this board with the column view by default, but if I wanted the list view to be the initial view that I open the board and open the list view, I can set it here as a default view or any of these views. The board name is here. You can group boards. So these can be grouped by client, by type of board, etc. So you can leverage that in a filter, which I'll show you when we get back to the boards view. And then you can have start and due dates as well for boards themselves. All right. We do have a Google Calendar integration, so you can connect to Google Calendar. Anything with a date basically will sync up both ways, so it's a two-way sync. We do also have an iCalendar feed, so if you're not using Google, but you're using Outlook or some other calendar program, we can leverage iCal as well. Each board does have a custom email address, so this can be used to basically have tasks come into a Rindle board. So I always say, add these to your address book, right? Because you'll never remember this email address because it's custom per board. And then you could just basically send emails in and we will parse that email out. So the subject line will become the task name, the body of the email will become a comment, and any attachments on that email will be attached to the comment as well. All right, we also have board level permissions that basically control the user levels that we have. We can now control board level things. So we can block out commenting permissions, right? Who can comment? Board members and up, right? So we can select from our levels that we have here at the user level and select what levels we want to be able to comment on the board. Same thing with automations, right? So only in this example, only board owners can have access to automations, and then inviting people to boards as well. So board administrators can actually edit invitations and invite new people to the board. So you can modify this however you'd like and have that settings accordingly. We have backgrounds as well. So you can have boards take on a background for color coding purposes, more functional purposes, or just to freshen it up and have a little more fun with your board. So we have solid colors here. We have gradients. We have geometric shapes, which are interesting. You'll see they are full bleed. So it is pretty impressive and fun to use. We also have full bleed images here. We have lots of options here. So if you scroll over, you'll see a little scroll bar under each one. So lots of options to choose from. And if you want, like, here's an example of a full bleed as well, like just a full bleed image. Right. So lots of different text on a background images you can select. And custom fields. So this is where you would apply a custom field to a board. So you can basically, these are the custom fields that are available. I can have an option to show that in a task face or not, right? I choose here to say show on task face. And then any custom fields that I want to add here, I can go ahead and find it in this list here, right, just by searching. All right, so that pretty much rounds out the board itself. I'm going to go ahead and go back to the boards area. So obviously you can have as many boards as you need. You can create boards in the top right corner. So if I click this here, I can basically create a standard board, which is what we've been talking about the entire time, basically, and looking at. That's been a standard board. Or you can create a board template, meaning it's going to be a template that you're going to create boards from. You can do that in the same process, right? By default, a regular board is selected. So you can go ahead and name your board. So I'm just going to go ahead and do a test. And let's choose a template so you can see what that looks like. So I can choose a template here that I've created already. So I have a couple created. I also can choose from Rindle templates here. So we have a couple pre-built boards you could choose from. We also have a baseline workflow that we highly recommend. We use ourselves. It's simple workflow that can be adopted and learned in about 20 minutes. We have some documentation on it too. So definitely check out that. If you have a template though, you can just pick whatever template you want here, select it, and then it shows you what template you have here. If you don't like that one, you want to switch it, you can just remove it and select a new one. All right, when I go ahead and hit next, you'll see here that that template has a default view of lists. So you see that's highlighted here. Here you can change it here if you want to, or you can leave it the default. You can group your boards if you'd like. Just type in the text of the group you want, and you'll be able to put it in there. And then you can select a start date and a due date for your board here. And then you can select the background. We just talked about the backgrounds a bit. So you can select a background that you want for that board, and then invite whoever you would like to that board. So I can then invite my users, anybody that I want to add to this board, I can invite in. So here I'm going to invite Tom in, and then I can go ahead and create my board. So it's pretty simple and straightforward to create a board. And once this loads here, so you can see this is in list view by default. You can see that background is selected. You can see Tom's on the board. All right, so if I go back to boards here, we do also have the option to import. So you can import from existing platforms. If you're coming from Trello or Asana, we do support their imports. We have our own CSV import as well, and we have a CSV template that in our help center that you can look up just CSV import. And we have a template available for you. That's a Google Sheet with lots of instructions exactly how to use it. And Rindle boards can also be exported as zip files and re-imported. So this is basically a zip file import for Rindle boards specifically. All right, and on the board section here too, we do have some groupings here, some filters. So we can pin boards. So I can go ahead and take this test board I just created. I could pin that to the top, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and pin that. And then we also have a filter called pinned too. So not only will it stick to the top of the active list, but when I click pinned here, it'll also show me in a separate filtered view of all the pinned items. I can also see boards that are shared with me. I don't have any right now. I can see groups. So these are where the groups are leveraged. So I can see basic demo, departments, right, leadership, etc., and break these down. The templates that I have will show here. So if I create a new template, it'll be available here. You can also create a template right from a board. So if I take, again, this test board and say, hey, this is gonna be a great template, we're gonna use it over and over again, I can simply just save as template here, and it will show up as a template that I can reuse over and over again. All right, and then we have archive boards. So any boards that are archived here, they will show up in an archive section. You can, again, restore these if you'd like, or permanently delete them. All right, so global search I want to show you really quick before we move on to the other sections. So we can search through task boards and discussions. So I can search for, let's say, research as an example. Our global search will pull results for tasks. Here we have 2 results that shows by default in the first view. It'll also search through boards. So here's my board that matches that result, and also discussions, right? So it's a powerful global search that will kind of get you where you need to go. If you click on the item, it'll take you right to that board and right to that task that you're looking for. Okay, up in the top right corner here, we do have our notifications. So as far as being notified on tasks and things like that, it is kind of like an inbox here. So we have an unread, a read, and a starred options here. So as your notifications come in, they'll be listed here. You can actually check them off as they go. So if I already saw this, so this one's actually from an automation. You can send an in-app notification in this example. And let's say I looked at it, I'm good to go. I can just mark it as read, it will go away. If I want to star one for later, like, hey, I want to remember this, but I want to get it out of my list here, I can just star it. And obviously I can click into any of these tasks as well and jump to the task itself. So this will show things that are due today, due soon, overdue. When somebody invites you to a board, it'll show here, things like that. So everything that we notify on will show here. And then you can just go through the tabs, look at your red items, look at your star items, etc. This little settings icon will take you basically to your settings for the notifications. So it's in here. So we have options for a summary email that you can send every day at 9 a.m. You can opt to receive that on weekends or not. And then all the things we notify in here, you can have an option to turn it on for email, mobile, desktop. They're all on by default. So you can then tweak as you'd like to go. All right. So in addition to the board section, we do have a browse section, and basically browse takes search a little bit further, and it lets you search on specific parameters, and it's a usable list. So you can see on the left-hand side here, I'm seeing results for things that are assigned to me that are incomplete, no start date, due date preference, assigned to me. That includes subtasks and excludes archive tasks. So this is our default view. So everybody kind of sees this search by default, and it's in our save searches. So you can save these searches as well. Up here in the top right, you can see save searches. The radio button basically allows you to set it by default. So right now I have the assigned to me set. Every time I come to the browse section, it's going to show me this. And then I can jump between different searches if I'd like to. If you want to do a new search, you can just click on a keyword simply, or do an advanced, and advanced will basically let you select all the parameters you'd like. So you can include a keyword, incomplete or not, start date, due date, specific tags, who it's assigned to, who it was assigned by, who's watching it, if they're mentioned or not, what board specifically, right? So lots of flexibility here. You can include subtasks or not, you can include archive tasks or not. So lots of flexibility to see either things that are in your plate, things that are in your team's plate, things that have certain escalations with tags or things like that. So pretty flexible search there. All right, so that's browse. We also have reports, some canned reports built in. So you can see an over report of what's going on inside the system. You can see it by user as well. So I can look at Tom and just see his activity over 7 days, 30 days, 90 days out. And we also have boards as well. So I can look through different boards and be able to look at a board and see the activity on that board. And again, go 7, 30, 90 days out. All right, so inside the profile here, we do have options. You can see your profile, you can see billing, and go to settings. So all those things are included in settings. So I'm going to jump to settings. So this first view here is your profile. You can change your picture image, you can add colors, etc., and update that. Your billing information is here. And then settings, basically, I went over already. There's some other options here to turn on browser notifications. We do have a dark mode available, so you can go from light to dark mode if you'd like. This is what that looks like, just so you know. All right. Our users are managed here, so if you want to invite people to Rindle, you can. Inside their profiles here, you can basically control all their profile information, including their global roles. So we do have also permissions at the global level. So they're either an owner of Rindle, an administrator of Rindle, or a standard user. And then what they see as far as the user can also be custom added. So you can add permissions for billing if you want them to see the billing, to see reports or not, to manage custom fields, to create boards and templates, or manage tags. So all of these are off by default, and you can turn them on if you want people to be able to do those things. All right. We also have teams as well. So you can group people by teams. We have more functionality coming for this in the future. You can also create custom fields. So I mentioned the custom fields you can apply to a board. You can also create these at a global level here. So they're managed actually in the settings area, and it's permission based, as I just mentioned. When you create a custom field here, they can be named whatever you'd like. You can add a description to it. And then I mentioned all the different types you could do: text, number, drop down, checkboxes, radios, and date fields. So you can basically pick whatever you'd like and then be able to enter values for those. You can even set defaults. You can add more values here. So I can say this is 1 and this is 2, and I want to set 1 as a default or have no default, right? You can also set these to be global and display on all tasks. So by default, it's off. So basically, if you create a custom field, you have to add it at the board level. If you turn on display on all tasks, it will display on every task in your Rindle system, regardless of whether it's on the board or not, configured on a board. So those are those options for custom fields. We do have some integrations. So again, I mentioned Harvest, so you can have harvest time tracking. We do integrate with Zapier. So you can connect with external or third-party applications as well. And we do have a Slack integration. So you can basically add tasks from Slack to Rindle. You can paste URLs into Slack, and it will unfurl it and show you more information and things like that. All right, that pretty much sums up the tour, if you will. If you have any questions at all, you can go to the Help Center. So we do have a Help Center here that you can click. We also have a chat that's always available. So you can chat with us anytime, start a conversation if you have an issue, a question, or anything like that. So thanks again. Again, my name is Brian, and thanks for checking out Rindle.